is 2020 News, where tonight we will give you the tragic story of 30 years that had been stripped from an innocent woman's life. Tonight we will examine Sam Ford's life spent on death row, the unconstitutional jurisdiction that all-white jury presented in 1984.
Samantha Ford was born in Louisiana in 1945, where she grew up in poverty with only her mother, who struggled to support her and her brothers and sisters. She knew she had to work in order to support herself.
Nice to meet you, Miss Ford. Could you give me some information regarding your life before the crime involving Miss Rosamond?
Growing up was difficult. I always found it hard to manage my school and work with my family. The first time I experienced discrimination was when I was 12. I was working at the local grocery store late at night, and I was near the end of my shift. While checking out a customer, he left a bag of groceries he paid for at the counter. Knowing my family probably wouldn't get a full meal that night, I grabbed the groceries and headed home. A white cop stopped me while walking home and started screaming at me and harassing me.
How do you think that atmosphere affected you later on in this case?
Well, I felt everyone was against me, and I was not treated to the rights I deserved. There was a lot of crime in the neighborhood I worked in, and Mr. Rosman always feared that, but he trusted me. I had done a lot of yard work for him in the past, but not the day he was murdered. When Mr. Rosman was robbed in his jewelry store and shot and killed, I was present at the scene, but only to do the landscaping like I had always done. The jury took the word of those at the scene who framed me immediately. The white man who possessed the jewelry stolen, the Robinsons, made false accusations against me. The Robinsons were the main suspect the police were looking into, but then came the discriminations, and I was the easier one to plant the murder on.
Now see how there is no proof that you were at the scene. There was no murder weapon found. There were no eyewitnesses at the crime. There were legitimate reasons why you would have been at Rosamond's store. So, can you now describe the injustice that were at the first court hearing?
My case was very unconstitutional. I was assigned 2 new attorneys. One was an oil and gas attorney, and the other had just come out of law school. The prosecutors insisted on an all-white jury for irrational reasons. All odds were against me, as I had no say for a defense, and the all-white jury would decide the rest of my life as a black woman.
Still feel resentment towards the American judicial system? And if you could ask the court system one question, what would it be?
Of course. Although they have now set me free, there is nothing they can do to give me back the 30 years they stole from me. I spent 30 years thinking of all the time I could have spent with my kids and grandkids, but instead I was trapped. I thought for 10,950 days about how my life would end due to those who never gave me a chance to have a voice. We need to rethink the law of capital punishment before it is too late. I would ask the court system, if my case slipped through the cracks so easily, how many others are sitting on death row, sentenced for death for a crime they did not commit?
That was 2020 News.
And more information to come on capital punishment up next. Welcome back to 2020. We are here today with Sister Karen from the Archdiocese of New York. What does the new evangelization call for when they ask about pro-life?
The new evangelization calls for followers of Christ who are unconditionally pro-life, who will proclaim, celebrate, and serve the gospel of life in every situation. A sign of hope is the increasing recognition that the dignity of human life must never be taken away, even in the case of someone who has done great evil. I renew the appeal I made for the consensus to end the death penalty, which is both cruel and unnecessary.
When the state's governments say that capital punishment is the most effective way to deter criminals, how can you negate that statement?
In Catholic teaching, the state has the recourse to impose the death penalty upon criminals convicted of heinous crimes. If this ultimate sanction is the only available means to protect the society from a grave threat to human life. However, this right should not be exercised when other ways are available to punish criminals and to protect society that are more respectful of human life.
When lawmakers justify the murdering of criminals by saying they deserve this lethal sentence because of how disrespectful they were to human life, why do these people deserve to live?
Each of us is called to respect the life and dignity of every human being. Even when people deny the dignity of others, we must still recognize that their dignity is a gift from God, and it is not something that is earned or lost through their behavior. Respect for life applies to all, even the perpetrators of terrible acts. Punishment should be consistent with the demands of justice and with the respect of human life and dignity.
Thank you for watching 2020 News. Stay tuned for next week.